Hello, dear students. Today, we will discover a very interesting part of art history. This art period is known as the Renaissance. In this first lesson, you will learn what Renaissance art is about, and you will also come across some of the main artists who were involved in this art movement. I am sure you are eager to see these wonderful works of art. So, let us start.
Let us see what is Renaissance art. Renaissance art started just after the Middle Ages in Europe. At that time, a great revival of interest could be seen in the classical learning and values of ancient Greece and Rome. Against a backdrop of political stability and growing prosperity, the development of new technologies such as the printing press, a new system of astronomy, the discovery and exploration of new continents were accompanied by a flowering of philosophy, literature, and especially art. The style of painting, sculpture, and decorative arts identified with the Renaissance emerged in Italy in the late 14th century. It reached its peak in the late 15th and early 16th centuries. In the work of Italian masters such as Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. In addition to its expression of classical Greco-Roman traditions, Renaissance art sought to capture the experience of the individual as well as the beauty and mystery of the natural world. But then, what makes Renaissance so special? Indeed, the developments of the Renaissance period changed the course of art in ways that continue to resonate. The status of the artist changed from an anonymous craftsman to an individual practicing an intellectual pursuit. Scientific observations and classical studies contributed to some of the most realistic representations of the human figure in art history. It is good also to note that one of the most important contributions to the Renaissance art was the discovery and application of the principles of perspective by Filippo Brunelleschi. Brunelleschi designed the dome of Florence Cathedral, which is unique and considered as one of the most famous domes in the world. Very interesting, that Renaissance art, isn't it? So, let us continue our journey. The Proto-Renaissance is the name given to that uncertain period of transition in Italian art as the creative influence of the Byzantine tradition began to decline. Artists saw the need for a more relevant art form that reflected the aspirations of an ambitious Italy, desperate to emerge from the stagnation of its medieval past. The main artists associated with the Proto-Renaissance are Giotto di Bondone, Duccio di Buoninsena, Simone Martini, Ambrogio Lorenzetti, and Pietro Lorenzetti. During the Proto-Renaissance, there was a gradual development of naturalism in Italian art, which was inspired by the values of classical humanism and the anatomical beauty of classical sculpture. In Giotto's Betrayal of Christ, a scene from his fresco cycle of the life of Christ in the Arena Chapel in Padua, the naturalism of his figures and their layered composition let the dramatic narrative unfold in a more naturalistic space. The figures have a greater three-dimensional form, more expressive body language and eye contact, with a particular focus on the revealing look between Jesus and Judas, just at the moment of his betrayal. The main types of art practiced during the Proto-Renaissance period included fresco mural painting, tempera panel painting, book illuminations, relief sculpture, goldsmithing, and other forms of metal work. Most of the artistic developments of the Trecento Proto-Renaissance period had a direct effect on early Renaissance painting. Let us continue our adventure. The early Renaissance is mainly associated with the city of Florence as the birthplace of the movement and as its main center of artistic innovation. Early Renaissance art introduces a greater degree of naturalism by placing an emphasis on the observational drawing of the human figure. It also establishes a more precise spatial organization of the figures, buildings, and landscapes through the invention of perspective drawing. Sculpture was the first of the arts in Florence to develop the new stylistic features and artistic concerns that are identified as the Renaissance style. Most scholars would date the beginning of the Renaissance to the sculptural competition in 1401 for the bronze doors of the baptistry of the Cathedral of Florence. The Gates of Paradise, or Italian Porta del Paradiso, is a pair of gilded bronze doors designed by the sculptor Lorenzo Ghiberti. Each wing of the Gates of Paradise contains 5 large rectangular reliefs of scenes from the Old Testament. The 10 relief panels are among the greatest works of early Renaissance sculpture. They demonstrate that Florentine artists had already mastered linear perspective. Humanistic subject matter, based on the study of classical mythology, along with portraiture and landscape, evolved as acceptable subjects for art during the early Renaissance. This marks a shift from the exclusive position held by religious art. Some artists, for example Masaccio, Fra Angelico, and Piero della Francesca, followed in the steps of Giotto by increasing the degree of naturalism in painting within the traditional themes of Christian art. Others, such as Paolo Uccello and Sandro Botticelli, advanced the same aesthetic ideals by using secular subjects to reflect the historical and classical interests of their wealthy patrons. The main artists associated with the early Renaissance are Masaccio, Donatello, Fra Angelico, Paolo Uccello, Fra Filippo Lippi, Piero della Francesca, Andrea Mantegna, Sandro Botticelli, and Pietro Perugino.
Well, dear students, we have reached to the end of this first lesson. I know that you have been mesmerized by all these inspiring paintings and sculptures. I suggest that you go through the lesson again and take more time to admire the details. In the next lesson, we will see the High Renaissance and the Venetian Renaissance. We will also look into the details of major artworks of this art movement. Until then, I'll tell you goodbye.